This is Eric and you're watching Gmodism. We're back to test CRAM fuses because it has come to my attention that there is one ultimate fuse, maybe, that everyone must use all the time, no exceptions. It's just impossible to get this thing to not, take up the green colors from this and take... Damn it. Anyways, so if you want to get some merch, check the links in the description. Now, we're going to get out of the studio and get into the game. Don't you think the studio is pretty cool though? Like, I designed it pretty recently and it has all this cool jazz all around. Nobody cares about your designing skills, Gmodism, just give up. Yeah, so I designed this very huge little slab of battleship armor that has some enemy simulators set to different times to be able to test shit. So if you are a commissioned officer in the army of Gmodism, you have access to all my downloads. I haven't put this up yet, but in the next update of the file, you'll get access to this thing also. So why I needed to do that is that certain things don't work if you have it on the same system. So I cut off that piece here. Because the regular CRAM testing platform, it just won't work, when we have it on the same system. It's same with the missiles a little bit. Sometimes you need an enemy target too, especially if you're going to try out the fuses that we're going to try out. So anyways, for this thing, we're using this CRAM testing platform, and I'm just going to show you what it does without a fuse, This has a reload time of 22 seconds. The shell is 190,000 almost. So that's Doom CRAM levels. We're gonna see how that fires. And you can see a CRAM like that, pure kinetic, goes straight through. Why isn't there a... That's weird, man. Alright, we're gonna try again with slow motion. Gonna see how this shell flows through, see what happened there. Now it melts through completely fine, no problem there. Alright, so that's the thing with CRAMs. If you wanna have a kinetic penetrator that just goes through enemies in general, this is the way to do it. And the weird thing is, even though this is 2000 millimeter, the entry and exit hole is only 1 meter. And of course, 1000 millimeters is of course 1 meter. So this hole of a CRAM that's 2000 millimeter should actually have like an impact hole of at least, 2 meters, right? 2 or 3 meters, right? It should be much bigger hole, but it isn't. It's weird. But in any case, if you want to have something that just penetrates things and destroys them very much, man, having kinetic CRAMs, I think kinetic CRAMs might be a little bit underestimated. If your target ain't super fast, use kinetic CRAMs. If you want to have something that just shoots through the enemy with minimum cost, man, use kinetic CRAMs. Sabot railguns are overrated. There you have it, it's overrated. As you can see, this entire system costs 42,000, and then you'll get a shot like this every 22 seconds. Just to compare, we're gonna spawn in the Arquebalista Invictus, which fires a sabot shell with what is it? Armor piercing? No, it's sabot, of course, and it uses gunpowder and rail. I'm just unable to do two things at once. But anyways, this gun is pretty good if you think about, what it does. It just shoots through targets, that's what it does. And it has one of the highest penetrating capabilities you can have. You can see it uses an 18 shell. The max size for this is, 8 meters, of course. It has a shell gauge of 180 to be able to have a little more penetrating power than 500 millimeters. So actually 500 millimeters is necessarily not the deepest penetrating shell. It's actually 400 and something. I think there is a magic number, but whatever. This is pretty deeply penetrating. It's about as deep as you can go with rail, you know, with rail and gunpowder assist. So there we go. Here's how deep this goes. It goes all the way here. And there. And here. Okay, it seems to have been stopped around on these ones. The material containers have insane health. Let's try another shell. This one fires every 10 seconds. It's a good gun though, I'm not saying it's bad in any way. It's just that if you want to have pure penetrating powers, CRAM is just superior. That's it. There you see, it goes that deep. It's pretty deep, you know, pretty good. But that's not really what we are here for, indeed not. We're going to have, so basically when we are using Doom CRAMs, the general thing we want to have is frag. You know, that's the most important thing. We will also have a apply to cannon. We're gonna check out this fragmentation angle. In general, wider is better. We're gonna go with 180 because each of the fragments goes deeper. They get crazy damage when the cone is wider. When the cone is narrower, it will get less damage per fragment, I think it is. Let's just check that. So now we can see we have 40 fragments, right? And 63,000 damage per fragments. The AP will always be the same. And if we do like this, we get 40 fragments. Yeah, exactly. It's the same amount of fragments, no matter the angle. But the wider angle, you can see it has 63,000. Now it has 25,000. So when we are having a narrow angle, it does much less damage. But of course, if you're going to have wide angle frag, you need to make it deeply penetrating, right? So let's see here. This has a reload time of 16 seconds. We're going to add some payload compactors, 27 seconds. So we have a shell health of 173,000, which is definitely fine Doom CRAM stats. Right. So of course, now we need some kind of fuse, because if we don't have a fuse, stuff will just go through, right? Apparently I didn't sit in the shower, which is quite important. All right, action. Goes through. Very sad. So what can we do? Well, we have different fuses. One thing I've experimented a little bit is hollow point, which is a super cool fuse, but it has this effect. All the fragments are on surface, and even though some of these fragments have insane damage, of course, as you can see here, if we have heavy armor behind, they're not gonna go very deeply here. We can see we don't have the layer even penetrated there. By the way, let me just explain what this is. This is my imaginary battleship, super battleship armor, you know. It has exterior metal, then we have some wood for spawning hash fragments. Then we have, like I like to do it sometimes, to have staggered era direct behind the first layer to stop sham APS very early on this section. And here in the middle, we don't have any era. And behind of this, we have a spore-liner, which is the thickest reasonable armor. You know, the strongest reasonable armor. A slope backed with a full block of heavy armor. Then we have 4 meters of stone put like matches like this. And behind that, we have just layers of metal and wood to get that armor stacking bonus thing, and that will basically, this is basically a good health armor, you know? And this is just HP sponge. Then I have, for some reasons, you might want to have staggered era at the inner layer to, you know, only activate when stuff is penetrating pretty deeply anyways, so yeah. Then we have it there, and then we have, what is it, 4 meters of alloy. I think alloy is the best interior armor. And for other internal components, like, you know, CRAM cannons or whatever, you probably want some heavy armor just around the turrets, so these 2 layers of heavy armor symbolizes that. Then we have soft blocks, AI, whatever. Then we have material containers, because the material containers, man, this cost, so like 50, it's like 54,000 material, no, what am I saying? The health is 15,000. The health is 15,000. Good job, Gmodism, you can finally speak. Which is one of the highest ones in the game. Here you can see this one has a health of 37,000, which is more, of course, but I wanted to have some big blocks that is easy to see and also serves a purpose inside. Then we have a layer of heavy armor and some more alloy just to catch, you know, fragments, shots, whatever. Also to symbolize the other side of the armor or something, if things is possible to go through or not. Anyways, I have some, what are they called, decoys back here. If we turn on this stuff here, the enemy simulators, it will guide some cannons dependent on how you set them up to aim, to kind of aim at the middle of the armor, which I thought would be useful if you have heat seekers or whatever, for if you want to try some missiles. So that's the explanation of that. But anyways, now there are different fuses we can use here. High altitude, low altitude isn't really applicable for this design. But we've seen on the hexadecapod in the Gimli battles, we actually had a low altitude set to explode at like -5, and we had an inertial fuse to explode if they got deflected. So that's a setup where it always will be very well set up against naval targets, but not other targets. So this is a good combo, I'll give you that, but it's not the best combo. Then we have my old favorite, which is time from first impact. Set it to pretty deep penetrating, 0.09. And if we do it like this, I think it's reloaded. Just fire this thing. And you can see we have an fragmentary explosion here, so it deals pretty much damage. Stuff is penetrating pretty deeply. You can see some stuff even hurt these blocks here. So here you can see the extreme damage of these fragments. They're just dealing so much damage. So this was my old favorite, and it has to be tuned, of course, to whatever you have. So if we are gonna have, like, of course, a battleship armor as deep as my example here, probably doesn't really exist in the real world, but this is more to symbolize a direct hit on this battleship armor is probably maybe approximate to a shot that comes in at a, you know, 45-degree angle at a regular battleship that's very, very thick, because then of course the blocks get, you know, thicker. It explains itself, the angle. But anyways, we're gonna shoot this thing here, and you can see if we set it up to penetrate this deeply, say if we would make CRAMs to shoot at some really huge, like huge Titan battleships made by Suzu or whatever, you probably want to have like this penetration scale. I mean, look at that. Then we could just destroy so much. Okay, so then we have, of course, you might want to have, but what if it deflects? Then I want an inertial explode on angle, right? So I promise you, I'm going somewhere with this. I'm not just rambling, even though it sounds like that. But anyways, inertial explode on angle, right? Explode from a penetration depth. So if we have an angle change of 6 degrees, penetration depth of 13 meters, or if we're having an altitude that's below, I don't know, 92. It's just an example. You can see fuse count. You can see right here, it says fuse count. Shell health reduced to 70%. That's horrible. And I know, I don't know if you're watching this Borderwise, but you know, we all make mistakes, and I think I remember the Titan slang, right? Where we had the battles with the Draconia. I think we had like 3 fuses on one of the Titan slangs there, so the shell health got down to 70%, and that's just not a good idea, because it's gonna be so much easier to shoot down those shells there. Those percentages are so valuable. Now the shell health is 121, And if you shoot these shells against the Gimle, not many of them are gonna get through. The Gimle's lambs and diff guns are just gonna keep itself very safe. This is not a good idea. But of course, when we do tests like this, of course it looks pretty good. You know, it penetrates and it explodes where we said it will explode. And it won't be deflected by shields or whatever. It might seem like a good idea. But I will tell you, there is some other way to do this. And that is a fuse that I thought was a really good idea before. And it turns out, at that time, it didn't work. And that's actually to use a laser targeter. So the laser targeter doesn't need to see the enemy. It can be embedded into the gun. But what you want to have is time from launch, right? And then you set, this number doesn't actually matter. And then time from launch fuse will be basically tuned to blow up on the target. Now, we can't test this. So this is the confusing part when we're testing. We can't just test this like this, right? Which is really annoying. We need to do like this. That's why I had to build this platform. We activate this, turn it into an enemy, fire this shell, and it should explode, except it didn't. And that's of course because I forgot we needed a local weapon controller just above the firing piece here. So the local weapon controller needs to, you know a target to provide on. And if we do that, if we just activate this thing here, and we fire again, see here. And now we can see it does explode inside of it like this. Very, very, very nice. And the beautiful thing with this is that even if we do slight misses, it's going to explode near the enemy. Now, to control the penetration depth of this particular thing, like this launch from impact doesn't matter, of course, it's set by this. The safety distance is only for altitude, so it doesn't matter here. We can have an offset time, right? So we can have it, 0.16, that's gonna be very deeply penetrating. And if we fire it like this, I think perhaps we need to activate the enemy first. Let me just do... Alright. Here we go. There we go. So deep explosion inside of there. Oh. Oh no. Oh, we got deflected and stuff happened. Alright, alright. Can we repair this thing? And just fire again here, alright? We want to really follow what's happening here, right? We are gonna get locked onto this cinematic mode. Let's go. Oh no. Oh yeah, of course. It's now aiming. That's the problem. It's now aiming. But I mean, it proves the point. It does work. We need that AI to be able to test this fuse at all. We need to make the... we need that CRAM to have a target. Or at least, it seems that it works even if you don't have an active target, but I think it need to have had a target at least, so it knows where to set the fuses, but it definitely needs a local weapon controller to be able to set the fuse for that CRAM cannon, like at all. Alright, we need to do some manual stuff here, right? Thank you. Still turning, there we go. Locked on. Here we can see, and it knows where the target is, of course. It's going to detonate, yes. If it had penetrated like 1 meter more, that would be a devastating blow. But of course, this is, not that most of your enemies are gonna have this thick of an armor. You have to be careful to not penetrate too deeply. Do keep in mind also that the shot penetrates slower the further it goes into the armor, the more momentum is kind of lost. But anyways, the beautiful thing with this is if we're just gonna reload this thing a little bit quick, and we're just gonna shoot this, and we're gonna try and miss, right? We're gonna shoot at that corner. Come on. Thank you. Oh, there we could see. Yeah, exactly. Now, I didn't see that very Let's try that again, right? But I think you saw the gist of it. That would have been ish a missing shot. Whoops, that one is the one we're gonna select. Just aim to the furthest corner up there. Yeah, there we could see it. It exploded in the air, like some airburst thing, close to it, even though it didn't hit. So that's basically, maybe I wanted to make my point clear, but I wanted to make it very clear. So I don't know if maybe I could have said that faster than in 20 minutes. But here we have empirical proof that you want to have the time from launch fuse for CRAM cannons. And you know, the crazy thing is that I thought about this earlier, like, damn, I should really have that, like years ago. And I tried it out, but it turned out, I don't know if the game kind of changed or whatever, but when I did the timed fuses there, even though I had a delay, I noticed that the CRAM shells always exploded upon impact. It was so annoying. It was so annoying. And I already made a tutorial about that, so I thought it was such a good idea to have the time fuses, so I had already recorded it in a tutorial, and then I had to cut that part away of the tutorial post-production, because from YouTube, because a couple of people have watched it and somebody told me, but hey, that doesn't work, it explodes some impact. And I did further testing and I was like, oh man, that's such a miss, it does explode on impact. So then I've been very stubborn for the last half of a month, because people have told me time fuses are so good, and I'm like, no, I already tested that and it doesn't work. I don't want to embarrass myself again. And they say, but it does work. And then I just had to make further testings. And of course I made these testings before recording this video, obviously. But yeah, maybe we need to have that enemy activated. And these are the results, you know. It works very well. It works very, very, very well. I have noticed that in some of my tests, the game has been kind of bugged. And when my CRAM cannons fired from the stationary platform, they kind of just exploded upon exit. If that doesn't work, try it from another vehicle, you know? Try it from not the fortress or something like that, because then it started to work for me. I don't know why. It's weird. But if it explodes exactly when it exits the CRAM, you know, barrel, that might be the problem. Yeah, but that's really cool, you know? So people tipped me about that. Kovrax and some other people said it, but time fuses are better. And I was like, damn. And I tested it, and yeah, now they are the absolutely best fuse you can have in the game. There is no reason for CRAM cannons to use anything else than a timed fuse. And you shouldn't have more than one fuse. We all make mistakes border-wise. If you're watching this, I also had CRAM cannons with too many fuses. But if you're having like 3 and I'm not judging you for a ship you built like 2 years ago or something. Don't mistake, you know, make no mistake. It's not that. We've all done it, but if you spam fuses, the health of your CRAM shells are gonna get so bad. Only stick with one fuse if you don't absolutely have to do some other way. But we can do that now. We can do that now with a timed fuse. It doesn't matter if your shell gets deflected. It will blow up close to the enemy. And of course, when it comes to the timed fuse, having the fragmentation is the best, of course. If you have high explosive, you know, you're not gonna do as much damage to the enemy, because if you're having explosive, like the radius of that explosion is just so worse, you know. We can actually test that out. I'm just gonna switch back to a penetration or time from first impact, my previous favorite, right? And we're gonna reconfig this CRAM cannon so you can see what happens if we have high explosive. There we go. I just had to remove that AI so it doesn't do weird stuff, right? And of course, as a scenario like this, of course it's gonna work here. We have a pretty good hole in there, but if we do a near miss, the blast radius from explosive is a lot worse than the blast radius from frag. But usually it's always good to have a little bit of explosive in all your CRAM cannons that are going to explode inside, because really soft blocks can actually explode very violently if you have that. So let's just up the penetration a little bit and see if we can get through to the soft bits here. That's a little bit too far. At like 300 meters per second, which is the CRAM speed now, thank they updated it from the old 200 meters per second. That was just too slow. But anyways, was this too slow as well? Maybe a little bit. But man, these small time fragments, because we see that 0.19 didn't penetrate deeply enough. 0.21 then. There we go. 0.2. I think this is gonna be spectacular, so we're going to slow-mo this one. Look at that. Glorious action. Yeah, the penetrate from first impact ain't very easy. It's easier when it's time from launch with a laser targeter, then we can make it explode nearby. Well, anyways, the fragmentations reaches forever. The high explosive has a limited blast radius. We can see here, for example, that the does it list the blast radius? Perhaps it doesn't. Well, whatever. It's a soft cap as well, so explosives and from the depth are very limited. If you're having a near miss, the frag is gonna be so much better. And about that, I'll just have to show you my new turret. I updated a turret which we're going to use on the updated version of the Gimle. I'm probably gonna stream that updating session, so if you don't want to miss that, you should definitely tune into my Twitch channel if you haven't already. Because there is where we're having all of the live streams, alright? So, we're just gonna walk up here and see if we can get close enough to control this thing. Let's actually just destroy this cannon and just slap down a weapon controller. Much smarter. Now we are going to activate this thing. So I can aim it by myself. Here you can see, now it exploded on impact. That's weird. Oh, I know why. That's probably just because the set point I provided, you know, that's where it's gonna explode. And we can insert an offset, as you know, in the laser targeter, but otherwise it's gonna be where we are putting it. So when you are designing stuff that will be firing at enemies, you probably want them to be pretty zeroed on the laser targeter, because it's gonna be pretty rare that a thing actually shoots at the surface of a thing. It will probably target a block inside of the enemy. So a 0 is probably the best, and then you can offset it or make it detonate before, dependent on the target basically. So I might have a slight offset, so I make sure it penetrates really deeply, but we're gonna have it close to 0, because if we don't, it will not deal so much damage with near misses. With near misses, a 0 will, in most statistical likelihood, always deal most damage. And I do guess that actually covers that. I updated the Gimle turret a little bit. This thing is called AOG Detonator, same millimeter, Mark 3, CRAM lasered. So it's laser distancing. Class Rock. And that's of course because our Admiral is Admiral Scrooby Rocks. So this is Class Rocks. I think I want to... I think naming like big guns after commissioned officers is a cool thing. Or any gun actually. Just having it somewhere in the name, you know, just for fun. In any case, this is an incendiary CRAM. As you might see, I've added incendiary, and I added this little laser pointer. And this laser pointer is just being there for aesthetical effects, and it might trigger enemies laser. So, you know, so the smoke is on. That might be good. But in any case, this is an incendiary thing. You can see here, it's mostly frag, tiny bit of EMP, and I think it has like 1 block of EMP, but it's incendiary a little bit, so it's gonna burn inside of enemies, basically. Which I thought was a cool thing. Cool thing to try out, at least. But on further thought, I'm thinking perhaps throwing in a little bit of explosive there isn't bad, but yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, I just started to do some testing with these here for against the Megalodon, and I noticed, I don't know if this is a bug or something, but it seems to have trouble setting this thing on fire. It's so weird. Why does it not want to set it on fire? It's very annoying. I wonder if that's something to do with I don't know. It's weird. Maybe it's just a bug again, because it should provide a good fire with like 130,000 damage, you know? No, that's the fragments. I mean, it should provide fuel for that with a lot, actually. We'll need to repair this thing to see how much it's gonna be. It's having 62,000 at the 20 intensity, but a fair bit of oxidizer too, and it just doesn't appear. The fire doesn't happen. I don't know. Well, we'll do further testing. Worst case scenario, I'll have to replace that with heavy explosives, high explosives. I mean, not heavy explosives. What is even that? Well, I think I've been rambling on for enough time now. I will confess that in the first part of the video there was a point. I was not rambling at all, but in the latter part of this video there was some rambling going on there. If you want to have mumbling / whispering instead of rambling, you should check out the Gmodism relaxation, the silver badge. I have actually made a from the depth relaxing video. I think you would enjoy it. Like last week. This week? Not sure. Anyways, do tune in to the Gmodist channel, of course, if you want to see the VODs and some extra content, and very soon 24/7 entertainment. On Twitch we have the live streams, and you find the supporting options, the Ecclesiarchy and the Army of Gmodism, where you can become a commissioned officer. Huge thanks to everyone who is supporting the channel. I will just say that. See you next time. This is your host, signing out.